You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Sports fans, welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk. And I have to start with the Atlanta Falcons making some moves. They signed Duron Harmon. They signed Cordero Patterson to a one-year deal worth $3 million. And they cut Ito Smith. These are solid moves by the Falcons. Duron Harmon is a really good safety. He was one of the few bright spots on the Lions' defense last year. He actually played more snaps than any Lion defensive player did last year. He had a 65.3 overall grade according to Pro Football Focus. He's always put together good years. The one thing I'll say is that the 65.3 overall grade is the lowest grade that he's ever had in a season. But that's still a good year, and the Falcons did need safety help. Before the Harmon signing, their best safety was Eric Harris. Harris isn't awful, but no one's going to be mistaking him for Keanu Neal anytime soon. I do expect the Falcons to draft a strong safety. You put that rookie next to Duron Harmon. Harmon will be able to mentor the safety. That's a really good setup. Good move there. Cordero Patterson is probably the best kick returner in the NFL. Realistically, every team should have been in on this guy. I've said this before. I'll say it again. People overlook special teams a lot. It's not until something bad happens that you realize, oh, darn it. I probably should have paid more attention to special teams. I mean, there's not a team in the NFL that couldn't have used a guy like Patterson. He led the NFL last year in kick returns, kick return yards. He had a 104-yard kick return. He returned back to the house. That was the longest kick return of the season. He made his second straight Pro Bowl. He made another All-Pro team. He's now made 4 Pro Bowls and 4 All-Pro teams. That's pretty impressive for a guy who many people wrote off as a bust. You gotta remember, this guy was taken in the first round in 2013. Did nothing as a wide receiver. That's what the Vikings thought they were getting when they made him the 29th overall pick. He turned into a great special teamer. I mean, at least he was able to salvage his career. Great move by the Falcons. It makes a ton of sense. Their special teams just got exponentially better. As for them cutting Ito Smith, you may not like this because the Falcons really don't have a great running back core. Yes, they signed Mike Davis, but once you get past him, it's dicey. And even then, Davis is no sure thing. He had a decent year taking over for Christian McCaffrey. Wasn't great or anything. He'll be fine. He won't embarrass himself, but no one's going to be mistaking him for Michael Turner anytime soon. Once you get past him, you had guys like Smith, Kadri Olesen, and Tony Brooks-James. Ito Smith is leaps and bounds better than those guys. But realistically, he's not great. He's not Michael Turner either. Last year he was solid. 63 carries for 268 yards and a touchdown. He had 17 catches for 75 yards. Smith is a decent backup. That's all he is. And if you want to draft a running back, a guy like Javonte Williams or Trey Sermon or Chuba Hubbard, go for it. I have no problem with that. Those guys are better than Smith. As of right now, the move doesn't make a lot of sense because the Falcons' running back room just got a lot worse and the Falcons only saved $920,000. But once they draft a running back in either day 2 or day 3, all will be forgiven. These are solid moves by the Falcons. They make sense. Are they players in the NFC South? Absolutely not, but at least they won't embarrass themselves like they did during the latter portion of the Dan Quinn era. Moving on now to the Raiders cutting Maurice Hurst and Arden Key. And I don't hate these moves. I don't love them, but I don't hate them. Key, I get. Alright, he was supposed to be one of the steals of the draft in 2018. The Raiders took him towards the end of the 3rd round. A lot of people said that that was a big steal. I was one of those people. It never worked out. Has he gotten better each year he's been in the NFL? The answer is yes, but the best grade of his career, according to Pro Football Focus, was last year, where he had a 58.7 overall grade. You can do a lot better than that. There's a role for Key in the league. He's still young. He's going to turn 25 in less than a month. Another team will give him a shot. As for Hurst, that's a little more surprising. Because according to Pro Football Focus, he was the Raiders' best defensive player last year. He had a 77.9 overall grade. So the first thought that went through my head was, why are the Raiders cutting him? It makes absolutely no sense. But then I thought about it. The Raiders signed Quentin Jefferson. They signed Solomon Thomas. They signed Yannick Ngakoue. Those are guys that John Gruden and Mike Mayock identified as key contributors for this Raiders team that we know is capable of making the playoffs. They've gotten off to hot starts, they've just fizzled out. At some point, Gruden and Mayock are going to need to start showing some results. And it's tough when you've got to keep up with the Chiefs, who got a lot better by adding Joe Thuney, and the Chargers, who got a lot better because Justin Herbert is a year older. Now, it does bring up the question, is Maurice Hurst worse than a guy like Quentin Jefferson, Solomon Thomas, or Yannick Ngakoue? The answer to that is no, he's not. Ngakoue is better. There's no question about that. But Thomas isn't. And Jefferson isn't. I mean, if you want to add a defensive tackle, that's fine. But just add one, don't add two. It makes no sense. The guy to add is probably Thomas. You get the sense that there may be something there since he only played 49 snaps last year. He got hurt at MetLife Stadium like a bunch of other 49ers did. I was watching that game. That was a tough game. But there is room for Hurst. I don't understand in what universe Quentin Jefferson, or even Solomon Thomas, if you like Jefferson more, is better than Maurice Hurst. It makes absolutely no sense. And let me tell you, the Jets could have used him. If the Jets didn't already sign Sheldon Rankins, I'd have said go after Maurice Hurst. If you really wanted to add a defensive tackle, which I didn't think you needed to do, you have Quinnen Williams and you have Foley Fatukasi, but if you wanted to add another one for some stupid reason, c'est la vie, add Hurst over Rankins. Maurice Hurst will land on his feet. Hey, let me tell you, if you're a team that was targeting a guy like Christian Barmore or Levi Onwuzurike in the draft, you can go after Hurst instead. I'd have no problem with that. None whatsoever. Getting rid of Key makes sense. I have no problem with that. Getting rid of Hurst, I don't like. There was no room for him. I understand that. But you shouldn't have written him out of your future plans if you're John Gruden or Mike Mayock. Moving on now to the Texans, signing Lane Taylor and DeMarcus Walker. And these are good moves. Taylor, we know, is a very talented right guard. He's been a good right guard in this league for a while. The past couple years, the injury bug has bitten him hard. But again, he has talent. Very valuable offensive lineman for Aaron Rodgers. You look at the Texans, their starting right guard at this very moment is probably Marcus Cannon, even though I don't think he's ever played right guard in the NFL, and he didn't play at all last year. He opted out. So adding some insurance makes a ton of sense. You'd be hard-pressed to find a better backup right guard than Lane Taylor. That makes a ton of sense. And so does adding DeMarcus Walker. He may not be a household name, but he is a good rotational defensive lineman for the Broncos. Last year, he took a step back. 54.1 overall grade, according to Pro Football Focus. But he did have 5 sacks. The year before, he had a 63.8 overall grade and 4 sacks. There's talent there. The Texans added a lot of defensive linemen this offseason. Malik Collins, Jaleel Johnson, and Derek Rivers. Walker won't be gifted a roster spot, but he can earn it. He has the talent to force his way onto the team if that's what's necessary. Good job by the Texans. These moves make a ton of sense. Now they just need the Deshaun Watson situation to get figured out. God only knows when that's going to be. But that's going to be a dark cloud over the Texans for as long as Watson is still there. I understand you can't trade him. No team will take him now. So you're stuck with him. Do you really want Watson playing after all this? The trade demand, plus the sexual assault lawsuits? I don't envy Nick Caserio at all. Moving on now to the Seahawks signing Aldon Smith. And this is a great move for the Seahawks. We all know the story. Smith is out of the NFL for 4 years because of a bunch of suspensions. A bunch of stuff that happened off the field. He comes back with the Cowboys because they love giving players second chances. And it looked like he had been playing nonstop. 66.3 overall grade, according to Pro Football Focus. He had 4 sacks. Was he the guy who it looked like was going to challenge the all-time sacks record? No. But he was still really, really good. You add him to this Seahawks defense that already has guys like Bobby Wagner, Poona Ford, and Jamal Adams. Whew. That's a scary defense, boyo, let me tell you. They'll be fine. Don't you worry. And Russell Wilson isn't going anywhere. The Seahawks will make the playoffs for however long Wilson is there. And once you get into the playoffs, anything can happen. Moving on now to an interesting trade rumor. According to Mike Garofalo of the NFL Network, the Broncos have received calls on Deshaun Hamilton. And it makes sense why. Hamilton is a talented wide receiver. Last year he had 23 catches for 293 yards and 2 touchdowns. In limited time, he is producing. The key phrase there, though, is limited time. there's no opening for Hamilton to strut his stuff. The Broncos have Jerry Jeudy, they have Cortland Sutton, they have Tim Patrick, they have KJ Hamler, they have Noah Fant. Where's Hamilton getting the reps? If you're a team that needs like a third or fourth wide receiver, go after Deshaun Hamilton. I don't mind that at all. I think he has talent. I think there's a lot of potential there that we really haven't seen yet. I'd hesitate to give up anything more than a 5th round pick, but if George Payton is amenable to that, go for it. I do want to talk about the really sad death of Leroy Keys, who died yesterday at the age of 74. It's okay if you don't know the name Leroy Keys. He's not a household name by any stretch. But the simple fact is, you really should know who he is. After all, he is a college football Hall of Famer. And in the late 60s, he was just as good as guys like O.J. Simpson and Larry Zonka. Keys started his career with the Purdue Boilermakers in 1966. And he really didn't get much of a chance to show what he could do. Bob Greasy was their quarterback, so they were a little more pass-happy. And even then, the starting running back for the Boilermakers was a guy by the name of Perry Williams, who also had a good college football career, for whatever it's worth. Then Greasy graduated. Mike Phipps took over as Purdue's starting quarterback, and he needed some help. Enter Keys, who in 1967 nearly ran for 1,000 yards. He finished the season with 986 rushing yards, 13 touchdowns, and to add to that, he had 45 catches for 758 yards and 6 touchdowns. Forget being the Boilermakers' best running back, he was their best pass catcher. Purdue did have a marquee win that year. The second week of the season, they did upset the top-ranked Fighting Irish 28-21. But they didn't play in a bowl game that year. They did finish 9th in the final AP poll, for whatever it's worth. At the end of the season, Keys finished 3rd in Heisman Trophy voting behind O.J. Simpson and the eventual winner, Gary Beban. The year after that, Purdue started as the top-ranked team in the nation. They held on to that title by beating Notre Dame. Notre Dame at that time was the second-ranked team in the nation. Purdue beat them 37-22. Like I said, they'd be the top-ranked team in the nation until they went up against the 4th-ranked Ohio State Buckeyes. The Buckeyes shut them out 13-0. Keys, again, had a great season. He had over 1,000 rushing yards, 1,003 to be specific. He had 14 rushing touchdowns, 33 catches for 428 yards and a touchdown. He was the runner-up in Heisman Trophy voting that year, losing out to Simpson. In 1969, the Eagles made Keys the 3rd overall pick. Unfortunately, it didn't really work out for him. Never really got going. They changed his position to strong safety and just didn't do much of anything. But Keys was so great at Purdue that in 1987, he was inducted into the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame. He was born in Newport News, Virginia. He was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 1990. In 2010, he was inducted into the Rose Bowl Hall of Fame because in his freshman year, he did play in the Rose Bowl. Purdue did beat USC 14-13. And in 2014, Keys was put on the quote-unquote Mount Rushmore of Purdue football alongside such legends as Drew Brees, Bob Griese, and Rod Woodson. He was a 2-time All-American, was the best player in the Big Ten in 1967, according to the Chicago Tribune. He had been sick for a while. He had cancer, he had congestive heart failure. At least we can take some solace in the fact that he's no longer suffering. May he rest in peace. Alright, so that's gonna do it for today. It's a short show, I know, but not a lot happened in the sports world. I can't make up stories where there aren't any. I will make it up to you. Monday night, you're going to get my first New York Yankees show of the season. I don't count the season preview as a Yankees show. I count that as something different. It still gets the Yankees intro, but it's not a Yankees episode. If that makes any sense. On Thursday, you're going to get the NFL Mock Draft Special with the one and only Nick Ornberger. We're going to go through not just the first round, not just the second round, but the first 66 picks of the draft. Why 66? Because the New York Jets have the 66th overall pick. For details on how we're going to do it, you can search out the NFL or NBA mock draft that we did last year. Obviously, I'll explain it before we do all the picks, but if you want to know now, you can search out those two shows. Also, April 29th, the morning of the NFL draft, you're going to get a New York Jets draft preview. The Jets are slated to have 10 picks. I'm going to tell you what the Jets should do with those 10 picks in a perfect world. And on May 3rd, the Monday after the NFL draft, that morning, you're going to get a New York Jets draft recap where I break down what the Jets actually did. I don't know if the Friday and Monday episodes of the Jacob Valk show will be solely dedicated to the NFL draft. It's certainly possible, but I don't want to say now whether it will or it won't be. Also, I will say this. I'm still going to do Monday shows until the playoffs start. It's going to follow the order that's already been set. Nets, Islanders, Yankees, Nets, Islanders, Yankees. Then once the playoffs get underway, the Monday shows will just be on the New York Yankees. Until next time, I am Jacob Valk saying that I like it when pitchers throw to me underhanded.